Sunday morning light glinted off the freshly painted white picket archway, marking the entrance to Willow Crest Estates. Marcus Lee eased his sedan to a stop beneath the wrought iron gate and grabbed his son's baseball glove from the passenger seat. Today's agenda was simple: attend the quarterly HOA meeting to raise concerns about the crumbling south entrance and soaring maintenance fees. He stepped onto the manicured lawn and approached a lone attendant at the board-clad sign-in desk. Marcus held out his driver's license and annual dues receipt. The attendant glanced down, then back up, her expression impassive. "Mr. Lee," she said, voice polite but firm, "attendance is by invitation only. You're not on the list." "That can't be," Marcus replied, brow furrowing. "I live at 42 Maplewood Lane, just like everyone else here." He pointed to the neatly printed directory behind her. She tapped her clipboard. "I'm sorry, sir. Board policy requires pre-approval for non-white homeowners. You'll have to wait outside." Confusion rippled across Marcus's face. "Pre-approval? That's new." He swallowed as he noticed the attendees, mostly white couples in polo shirts and khakis, filing past him under the arch. Through the glass-paneled doors, he could see the board president greeting members, all smiles. He raised his receipt again. "I pay the same dues. I'm a homeowner here." She offered a rehearsed apology and turned away. Marcus's heart pounded. He climbed into his car, his son watching from the back seat with wide eyes. Outside the gate, the crisp spring air tasted sour with injustice. As the HOA's doors closed on him, Marcus felt a surge of resolve. If this white-only exclusion stood, he would rally every resident, of every color, to reclaim their community, and he would make sure the gates of Willow Crest swung open to all. That evening, Marcus Lee sat at his kitchen table, scrolling through the HOA's bylaws on his laptop, disbelief giving way to anger. The line he'd discovered, "Residents of color may be admitted only at the board's discretion," stung like a slap. His wife, Simone, poured him a cup of coffee. "This neighborhood was supposed to be our safe place," she whispered. "We can't let them write us out of our own community." Fueled by outrage, Marcus drafted a clear, concise post for the Willow Crest Next Door group. Subject: discriminatory HOA rule. Let's take action. Yesterday, I was denied entry to our quarterly HOA meeting, despite paying my dues and living here for 2 years. The board's policy reserves admission at their discretion for residents of color. That's unacceptable and illegal. If you agree our meetings should be open to every homeowner, please join me this Saturday for a peaceful march to the HOA hall. Let's demand transparency, equal representation, and the removal of discriminatory language from the bylaws. By midnight, dozens of replies had landed in his inbox. Messages of support from Black, Asian, Latino, and white residents, who'd also felt sidelined or simply outraged by the blatant bias. His phone buzzed with private notes. "I'll make signs. Count me in. We need to do something." Simone scanned the responses, tears in her eyes. "You're not alone," she said. "They're with you." Over the next 3 days, Marcus and Simone transformed their living room into a makeshift headquarters. They designated roles: flyer distribution. Elena Morales, their neighbor, and a graphic design student, created a bold flyer reading, "Willow Crest March, all residents welcome." She and her college friends laminated 200 copies for door-to-door handouts. Media liaison Jamal Price, a local freelance videographer, drafted a press release and alerted the community newspaper and local TV stations that residents were mobilizing against exclusionary HOA rules. Sign making. Parents in the neighborhood offered garage space and craft supplies, plywood, poster paint, dowels, so children and adults could paint messages like "open doors, open minds," and "your dues, your voice." Police coordination. Simone called the non-emergency line to notify the local precinct of their planned, peaceful gathering, ensuring they had an escort and clear route permission. On Thursday night, a group of 12, diverse in age and background, stood under the lanterns of Marcus's driveway to strategize. They role-played marching formations, assigned marshals to keep the route clear, and practiced chants. "No more closed doors," and "HOA, hear our voice," that would resonate down Maplewood Lane. By Friday, their cause had rippled beyond Willow Crest. The district council member tweeted support for equitable community governance, and a local civil rights attorney offered to volunteer time to review the HOA's policies. In the silent stretches of Maplewood Lane, the first signs began to appear. March Saturday, 10 a.m. posters on telephone poles and all residents welcome stickers on mailbox clusters. As Saturday dawned bright and cool, Marcus looked out at his assembled neighbors in the driveway. Families clutching handmade signs, retirees in their Sunday best, toddlers waving mini placards. He felt a swell of pride. Today we march, he told them, voice firm, not just for ourselves, but for every family who calls Willow Crest home. Let's show them that unity can't be gated. And with that, they set off down the street, united, determined, and ready to reclaim their neighborhood. By Wednesday evening, whispers of the Willow Crest March had rippled through every mailbox and front porch. Elena Morales and her friends fanned out at dawn, slipping all residents welcome flyers under dozens of doors. From the ivy-clad Tudor on Oak Terrace to the modest ranch on Pine Ridge, each flyer bore clear, bold text. Saturday, 10 a.m. Meet at Willow Crest Park. March to HOA Hall. Demand open meetings. At the same time, Jamal Price posted a 60-second video on neighborhood Facebook groups. Footage of Marcus being turned away, intercut with smiling families, pledging to join the march. Within hours, the video amassed hundreds of views and dozens of supportive comments, white neighbors offering to drive seniors to the starting point, Latino families translating the flyer text into Spanish, and single mothers arranging babysitters so they could attend. That evening, volunteers gathered in Marcus's driveway once more, this time to paint signs. Children dipped brushes into bright primary colors. HOA, open the door, equal voice, equal vote, and no more closed gates appeared on plywood boards. Simone Lee stood over a table of poster paint, helping toddlers write the letters of unity and community, as parents balanced babies on their hips, laughter mingling with the soft hum of neighborhood traffic. Meanwhile, Marcus and his co-organizers met with Officer Sanchez from the local precinct in front of the gated hall. Sanchez, impressed by their organization, confirmed the march route would be fully escorted, traffic cones placed at intersections, and deputies on hand to ensure peaceful conduct. "We'll keep things safe," she said, tapping her official notebook. "You focus on your message." That afternoon, the first wave of media arrived. A photographer from the Community Gazette snapped images of volunteers chalking arrows on sidewalks, and a local radio station's reporter recorded on-air interviews with Aisha Jackson, who explained the bylaw's discriminatory clause and the community's call for transparency. By evening, the Gazette's website displayed a banner headline, "Willow Crest's residents unite to challenge exclusionary rules." As dusk fell, a final email went out to every mailing list Marcus could access. "Tomorrow, we march for our homes. Please join us." Under streetlights, he reviewed the route on his phone, Maplewood Lane to the HOA Hall and back, then looked up to see dozens of glowing posters taped to windows up and down the street. Some bore signatures of homeowners rarely seen at meetings. Others displayed heartfelt notes. "Marching for my daughter's future. I pay, I vote, I belong." Standing in the quiet of the night, Marcus felt the swell of a movement no gate could keep out. The stage was set. On Saturday morning, Willow Crest would rise as one, its residents united, its purpose clear, and its call for justice impossible to ignore. At 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, a crisp breeze carried the buzz of anticipation through Willow Crest Park. Over 200 residents, families clad in green All Residents Welcome t-shirts, retirees with placards taped to their canes, and children clutching hand-painted signs, gathered beneath the old oak that served as the neighborhood's informal meeting point. Marcus Lee stood on a folding stool, his son by his side, and raised a megaphone. "Good morning," he called, voice strong despite the throng. "Today we march not just for ourselves, but for every resident shut out by discriminatory bylaws. We demand open meetings, transparent governance, and equality under our own roof." A roar of cheers answered him as Jamal Price signaled the start with a raised camera. Villagers huddled into neat ranks behind Marcus. Colorful banners held aloft. Open doors, open minds. My dues, my voice. HOA, hear our neighbors. Elena Morales, clipboard in hand, coordinated marshals positioned at intersections, each wearing a bright armband and holding a walkie-talkie. At precisely 10 a.m., Jamal cued the DJ's Bluetooth speaker. A clip of marching drums erupted, and the procession filed onto Maplewood Lane. Led by Marcus and a small color guard of children waving flags, the marchers chanted in unison, HOA, hear our voice. No more closed doors, their feet echoing against the pavement. Neighbors leaned from porches to applaud. Drivers paused to honk in solidarity. Even the mail carriers saluted with a broad grin. As they turned the corner toward the HOA hall, uniformed officers guided the column past neatly trimmed hedges. Inside the glass-fronted building, board members pressed against the windows, startled by the sudden flood of humanity. At the gated entrance, the crowd halted. A hush fell as Marcus stepped forward with the petition folder, its pages bulging with 142 signatures, far more than the required quorum. To the Willow Crest HOA board, Marcus announced, voice carrying across the silent gathering. These residents represent the voices you have silenced. We demand the immediate removal of discriminatory clauses, open admission to all meetings, and equitable representation on the board. We will not leave until you commit to reform. He extended the petition toward the board president, who emerged from the hall's foyer, flanked by fellow directors in their Sunday best. The president's pale smile faltered as he took the folder. Members glanced at the line of cameras recording every moment, their expressions shifting from defiance to uncertainty. After a tense exchange, the president cleared his throat. We hear you, he said, glancing at his board. We will schedule an emergency open forum to amend the bylaws. Your concerns will be addressed within 14 days. Cheers surged through the marchers, breaking the tension like sunlight through clouds. Marcus raised his son's hand aloft, father and son triumphant, while neighbors hugged, laughed, and shared tears of relief. The marchers then turned around and paraded back down Maplewood Lane, chanting victory slogans beneath fluttering banners. By noon, social media feeds were ablaze with photos and live streams of the march's peaceful conclusion. News crews filed their reports. Residents reclaimed their community. Discriminatory HOA rules dismantled. And as Willow Crest's gates swung open to democracy, Marcus knew this single, unified step had upended not only a meeting room's closed doors, but the neighborhood's very future. 2 days after the march, Willow Crest's community hall, once off limits to half its residents, buzzed with new energy. Rows of folding chairs filled the room. Young families, retirees, and homeowners of every background packed in shoulder to shoulder. At the front, banners read, Emergency Open Forum, Your Voice, Your Vote, in bold green lettering. At 7 p.m. sharp, Board President Grant Caldwell stepped to the podium, flanked by his fellow directors. Now a visibly more diverse group, including 2 residents who'd joined the March Committee. He cleared his throat, visibly unsettled. Thank you for coming, he began. In light of your peaceful demonstration, we are here to rewrite our bylaws and restore trust. The room burst into applause. First on the agenda was the removal of the exclusionary clause. Marcus Lee approached the microphone, petition in hand. We proposed deleting the line that gave the board discretion to admit residents of color. Instead, we ask, all homeowners in good standing shall have the right to attend any HOA meeting. He read the amendment in full. A show of hands vote followed, unanimously in favor. Next, residents tackled meeting transparency. Elena Morales presented the proposal. Live stream meetings on a community portal, publish minutes within 48 hours, and rotate meeting times to accommodate varied schedules. Several residents shared personal stories of missing debates due to work conflicts, testimonies that turned questions into resolve. The board agreed to institute all transparency measures by the next quarter. The most spirited discussions centered on board representation. Until now, members had been self-appointed. The March Committee demanded democratic elections with term limits. Ms. Jackson, a longtime Willow Crest parent, spoke poignantly about feeling voiceless when important budget decisions passed without input. After robust debate, including a respectful back and forth on election logistics. The forum voted to establish a 5-seat board, elected by all homeowners, each serving staggered 2-year terms. At the close, President Caldwell offered a heartfelt apology. "We acknowledge our mistakes and pledge to govern with equity and openness. Willowcrest is stronger when every voice is heard." Tears and applause followed. Neighbors exchanged congratulatory hugs, some wiped eyes with tissues. As the room emptied, new committees formed on the spot: finance, landscaping, and community events, all open to any resident who wanted to serve. For the first time, the hall's wooden floorboards felt warm underfoot, echoing not exclusion but collective purpose. Outside, under the glow of street lamps, Marcus and Simone Lee high-fived committee members. Jamal Price captured the moment on video. "Willowcrest rewritten by its people," he narrated, framing the jubilant group against the newly unfurled "All Voices Welcome" banner. In those instant highlights and in the transformed bylaws now available online, the neighborhood's future gleamed with promise, proof that a single peaceful march had galvanized a community to redefine itself. In the weeks following the emergency open forum, Willowcrest's transformation accelerated from promise to practice. Marcus Lee convened the newly elected Bylaws Committee, composed of former board members, March Committee alumni, and civic-minded residents, in the same community hall where they'd rewrote exclusionary rules. Under his facilitation, they drafted a complete revision of the HOA charter, mandating open-door policy. Every homeowner in good standing has guaranteed non-discretionary access to all meetings, no exceptions. Transparent governance. All agendas, supporting documents, and meeting minutes must be published on a publicly accessible community portal within 48 hours. Democratic elections. Board seats are filled by annual district-wide elections, with secret ballots, term limits of 2 consecutive 2-year terms, and vacancies filled by special election. Diversity requirement. At least 2 seats on the 5-member board must be held by residents from historically underrepresented groups, ensuring the board reflects the neighborhood's demographics. Resident Oversight Council. A separate 5-person council, elected by homeowners, empowered to audit financials, investigate grievances, and call for town hall votes on major expenditures. Once the draft was complete, Marcus and Aisha Jackson organized a series of bylaw boot camp workshops in the hall's annex. Dozens of residents, many of whom had never set foot in an HOA meeting, learned how to nominate candidates, run for office, and propose agenda items. Jamal Price live-streamed the sessions, posting them to the community portal and local civic education sites. Simultaneously, the Financial Transparency Task Force, chaired by retiree Helen Park, audited the past 2 years of HOA finances. They uncovered over $25,000 in misallocated reserve funds, now redirected to repair the south entrance and subsidize community events in lower-income pockets of the neighborhood. Weekly Know Your Numbers workshops demystified the budget for residents, who began to propose capital projects, playground upgrades, alleyway lighting, and a heritage tree planting initiative. By the next quarterly meeting, now held in the open-air pavilion by the park, residents witnessed the overhaul in action. 5 new board directors were sworn in, including Marcus, Elena Morales, and 2 first-time candidates from the March Committee. The agenda, pre-published online, included a proposal for a community holiday market and the unveiling of a Neighborhood Inclusion Grant Fund, dedicated to projects that foster unity across the area. At that meeting, the former gated hall was repurposed, its seating rearranged into a circle, removing the power dynamics of board on high, and creating a true town hall atmosphere. Discussions flowed freely, residents offered feedback in open mic sessions, and the board responded in real time with on-screen notes and action items. When retired teacher Mr. Thompson suggested adding wheelchair ramps at the community pool, the board immediately formed a work group to draft bids to be voted on at the next public session. Across Willowcrest, tangible signs of change took root. The long-ignored south entrance gleamed with fresh concrete and solar-powered lighting. The overgrown trail along Maplewood Lane was reopened as a walking path lined with benches donated by local artisans, and a monthly cultural cuisine potluck rotated among neighborhood homes. celebrating the area's rich diversity. By month's end, an independent survey found 92% homeowner satisfaction with the new governance model, up from 47% the previous year, and a spike in civic engagement, with 65% of residents attending at least one HOA event. Media outlets hailed Willow Crest as a model of peaceful reform, and municipal officials invited Marcus and his team to present their blueprint at the state's Community Association Conference. As spring dawned and tulips bloomed beneath the archway, Marcus once faced alone, Willow Crest Estates stood anew, its gates no longer symbols of exclusion, but markers of a community united by open doors, shared purpose, and the unyielding power of collective action. 1 year after the historic march, Willow Crest Estates was unrecognizable from the gated enclave it once was. On a warm spring evening, lanterns glowed along the now permeable white picket archway, welcoming every resident, old and new, to the annual Willow Unity Festival, hosted on the freshly renovated South Green. Stroll through the festival grounds and you'd find community market stalls run by homeowners of all backgrounds, selling empanadas, jerk chicken skewers, Korean rice cakes, and Southern-style lemonade. Kids' Civic Corner, where children painted miniature protest signs, My Voice Matters, and learned about local government from teen volunteers. Open mic stage, featuring poetry readings, spoken word performances, and remembrances of that fateful Saturday march. HOA Transparency Booth, where board members posted real-time budget updates and answered questions, proof of their commitment to accountability. At dusk, the newly elected board president, Elena Morales, took the stage. Beside her stood Marcus Lee, Simone, Aisha Jackson, and 2 other March Committee alumni, the first leaders directly elected under the revised charter. Elena raised her hand for quiet, then said, "Tonight, we celebrate more than a year of open meetings, transparent governance, and true representation. Willow Crest is no longer a gated community. It's a home built on inclusion." The crowd erupted in applause as children danced to a DJ spinning multicultural beats. Neighbors shared stories of seniors who finally attended meetings without fear, of immigrant families who felt seen at last, of teenagers inspired to lead their own school board campaigns by witnessing Willow Crest's example. As lanterns flickered under a canopy of stars, Marcus wandered past the old HOA hall, now repurposed as a community resource center, offering legal clinics, voting registration drives, and after-school programs. He paused before the mural painted on its brick facade, diverse hands unlocking a gate, the words "Together we thrive" arching overhead. Beside him, his son tugged at his hand, pointing to the mural and grinning. "We did that, Dad." Marcus knelt to hug him, eyes misting. "We did," he replied softly. And as laughter, music, and the hum of happy conversation filled the spring air, Willow Crest stood as living proof that one peaceful march could indeed unupend an entire neighborhood and forge a lasting legacy of unity, equity, and shared destiny.